Dear students, today we will do the third poem from Hornbill. The poem's name is Childhood. It was written by Marcus Nathan. He's a Norwegian poet. We'll read the poem first. Childhood. When did my childhood go? Was it the day I ceased to be 11? Was it the time I realized that hell and heaven could not be found in geography, and therefore could not be? Was that the day? When did my childhood go? Was it the time I realized that adults were not all that they seemed to be? They talked of love and preached of love, but did not act so lovingly. Was that the day? When did my childhood go? Was it when I found my mind was really mine, to use whichever way I choose, producing thoughts that were not those of other people, but my own and mine own alone? Was that the day? When did my childhood go? Where did my childhood go? It went to some forgotten place that is hidden in an infant's face. That's all I know. First we'll discuss the theme of the poem. The theme of the poem is loss of innocence and purity of childhood. The poet wonders where and when he lost his childhood. It highlights the loss of innocence and faith to reason and logic and gain of knowledge, which leads to acquisition of hypocrisy. The only positive thing that we gain from this is individuality, the power to make our own decisions. But that also takes away our childlike qualities. Now we cannot find our childhood anywhere but in an infant's face, a small child's face, and our lost memories. Childhood thus is irrevocably lost. Now coming to the stanzas. The first stanza is about knowledge and rational thinking. When we start growing up, when we start studying, when we reach school, around the age of 11, as the author says, hell and heaven are not found in geography. We realize that our fantasies are not anywhere in the knowledge that we are being imparted. As we enter adolescence, we start thinking with reason and logic, and then we realize that our fantasies do not prevail. They are not there, they are only in our minds, and they do not actually exist. And thus, reason and logic start prevailing more than fantasy. In the second stanza, the poet talks about hypocrisy and how we gain knowledge and become hypocrites. The child also realizes that the adults do not practice what they preach. They preach about love, they preach about acting lovingly, but they do not do so. So there is a loss of trust and faith and the realization that world is not as pure and simple as a child thinks, and we lose it irrevocably. Then there is the third stanza that talks about individuality. Now we have our own opinions. When we are around 15, 16, we have our own opinions, and we realize that our mind is more powerful. We do not believe others, we do not take biased decisions, we do not have biased notions, and we become mature, and our experiences teach us to take life on. But then all this maturity and experiences take away our innocence and our childhood. We can never go back to being the same child. In the last stanza, from the refrain changes from when to where. He now wonders where his childhood has gone, and he realizes that the childhood has gone into hiding in some forgotten place which can never be found again. It can only be found in an infant's, a baby's face, because that is the only pure and innocent thing that you find. And now that childhood is a lost memory. We can recall the moments, but we cannot bring it back. It is a very simple poem. There is free verse, no rhyming, and the only literary device used is the refrain. Refrain is the repetition of lines to give a central message. There are two refrains in the poem. One is the question, when did my childhood go? He is again and again referring to the point that he does not realize when he lost his childhood. It was in many stages probably. The central message of the poem is given by this refrain, that the poet has lost his childhood and he is questioning when he lost it. The second refrain is the exclamation, was that the day? Was that the day ends with an exclamation mark. It shows surprise and confusion and the ultimate realization that he has lost it in stages, and that is why he does not use the refrain at the end, because now it is more about where and not when. and that childhood has become an irrevocable memory.